right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the early days, and this video is going to be kind of the making of The Cut Above, which was my first DVD that I shot when I lived back in Massachusetts. And at the time, I'm going to kind of explain how about that. But kind of like, this is like an F social media type thing because, I was doing social media long before social media existed, meaning I was shooting DVDs and letting people into my life and showing the nutrition and the training, and like I was doing it year after year, right? I released a new video every single year with Mitsuru Okabe. And he would come to Las Vegas, he would come to Massachusetts, he would come to California. He shot me kind of in every scenario. He stayed with me for a week, and we kind of do what I do today on social media. So what I wanted to kind of talk about is what kind of entailed around my life at the time. When I first started shooting the DVDs, the first one was shot in 1999. So when Mitsuru Okabe came out to shoot Battle for the Olympia, which is the first year I was qualified to get into Mr. Olympia, I actually, he's like, hey, why don't we start doing a series? You're getting super popular. People are starting to talk about you. I think you should launch a video. And at the time, we never named the videos until all the footage was done and everything was kind of processed, and we came up with like the terms. And even back then, I was known as The Cut Above Jay Cutler. So kind of going with the Cutler last name, and I kind of had a t-shirt that said A Cut Above. It said it on my business cards. So fast forward, when we launched the video, it was called The Cut Above. It was my first video, and if you guys remember, I'm going to mention, if you go to YouTube and you see the video where I actually ripped the towel and I put the headband, like the Rambo headband, on there, that was the video where it all started. And that was training for my first Miss Olympia. I was 25 years old, and I qualified by getting fourth at the Arnold, and I got third at the Pro Ironman. And back then, I think top 5 at the Arnold qualified you. And I think when I got to that show for that Olympia, there were 16 guys in the show. Well, I finished 15 out of 16. Okay, I only beat one guy in that show to place the worst ever placed in a Mr. Olympia competition. But it really didn't explain the true look on what I brought to that show. And at the time, I was in a huge transitional phase. I had already decided after the Arnold Classic and the Pro Ironman earlier in the season that I was going to transition my way to California. I was going to make the move, but luckily I had a friend out there that introduced me to Orange County, and I was planning to transplant myself and my wife Carrie at the time to a place called Aliso Viejo, and I already had put a down payment on an apartment out there, and I already started the transition. So in the time when I was training for this Mr. Olympia competition, I was renting a house, an apartment from one of my close friends, and I literally had no furniture in the house. So I remember when they came to shoot my DVD, that Cut Above, Mitsuru wanted to come to my house and he wanted to shoot the footage, but to be honest, I was eating off of like pool furniture, so like plastic chairs, a table. I had a mattress on the floor. I had no bureau. None of my clothes they were folded in piles on the floor. Mattress on the floor. Here I was, successful, training for my first Mr. Olympia, qualified, and I said, "There's no way you can do this, like show this appearance of my place, because it really wouldn't make sense." Because at the time I was like planning to move right after the Mr. Olympia. In fact, the Olympia ended in September, and I moved just before Thanksgiving in November that year to California, and we flew out there, put the dog on the plane, Scrappy at the time. He was our only pet. And, they shipped all my stuff, which was only my clothes and my vehicle pretty much, and I started a fresh life in California. But when we shot that, I remember, training, and I looked phenomenal. I was training under Chris Aceto, so I drove to Maine through that video. He looked at me, he adjusted the diet, I showed all the training sequence, in training the spandex, training with the heavy weights. I was in great condition. It was actually filmed like 3 weeks prior to the show. And I remember we finished the tail end of the video in Aliso Viejo. We actually finished it after I bought a home. So I had already moved to the apartment. bought my first condo there, and that's when we actually finished the video. And you'll see at the end of the video, if you guys ever get a chance, it's on YouTube. I think it's on our channel actually. You can actually see that way back. You can see that, I showed like, okay, this is my Night of Champions ring, and that Night of Champions actually bought that first condo for me. But I had huge expectations going into that show, and I was just talking earlier tonight. We attended a show here, and I was saying to Dave, I missed going and doing the photo shoots for Flex magazine, because that would always judge how we look. So, a couple weeks out from that Olympia, which was in Las Vegas, it was the first Mr. Olympia they held in Las Vegas at Mandalay Bay. I had high expectations. Like I said, we flew out to California first to shoot for Flex magazine in Costa Mesa, California, which was very close to where I was going to be moving to. And I remember prepping for the show, and Chris Aceto actually was staying with me. He came out also, and we had an earthquake in California. And I remember waking up, and the whole place was swaying. And I remember looking at the lights, and I jumped up and I stood in the doorway, because they always said get in doorways during earthquakes. And I'm like, wow, the whole place, it felt kind of dizzy. And that was the first time I ever experienced an earthquake, and that was like when I was in my photo shoot time for the Olympia that year, and it was crazy. And we were shooting at the Metrics gym in Costa Mesa, which was off 17th Street. And I remember Kevin Levrone came in. And I remember Kevin, called us up. We were in the room, and Kevin will probably remember this. And I remember he pulled Chris Aceto aside. He said, "Man, what is this kid doing? He looks unbelievable." And at the time, like, I was super confident going to the show. I thought I was going to get calls with Ronnie Coleman. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I prepped all my food. I went up to California, and you guys do your meal prep now, man. Like, you don't understand. Like, back in those days, like, I remember they weren't allowing any refrigerators or microwaves in the hotel at the time. I was Mandalay Bay, and I had to have all my food prepped. So I remember when we left California to stay in Las Vegas for a week time, we came out a week early to get acclimated to the climate. We cooked all the fish, all my potatoes, everything, and we wrapped it in tin foil. And then the way we would heat it up is we would have a George Foreman grill, and we would make sure it was pretty flat. So we just put it in the Foreman grill and put it on the heat for like 20 minutes. And that's how I was heating up my food. No microwave, anything like that. So today, I'm still against kind of microwaving food. You notice I heat stuff on a skillet in my videos. But back then, I was just heating it with kind of like it was like a hot plate almost. Like, I just used the Foreman grill because that was easy. And then I would keep ice in the cooler, and that's how I'd keep the stuff like refrigerated. I keep it cold. And I had all my meal prep for the whole entire week, and everything weighed out. And I remember the other athletes were eating off the menus or having food delivered or whatever, and I was just, I was eating my Wade special food, and I was mostly eating white fish at the time. And, it was a huge, huge learning experience, but at the same time, I was shooting that video. I looked phenomenal, and like I said, I finalized that video in Aliso Viejo, and then we launched the video, I think, sometime in 2000. And then, of course, I had my breakthrough year in 2001, but I think I just finished 8th at my second Olympia. I think when we actually wrapped up the video in 2000, and then we rolled into we went to New and Improved and Beyond was the next one. That was 2003, and then after that, One Step Closer, 2005 Olympia, and then when I won the Mr. Olympia, we launched out. 2007 we filmed for the J to Z video. Okay. And then that was pretty much the end of the Mitsuru Okabe videos, and then we rolled into Undisputed, which I think that was my final video, Undisputed. And then I did All Access in 2009, 2008, 2009, leading up to that, and pretty much I didn't do much videos after that because social media came about. So, social media. This is the early days that we kind of did that, but my mindset going into these videos was like, I want to bring people into my life. And I try to tell people nowadays, and I learned a lot from Sean Ray actually, and I'm going to get to interview Sean, and I watched his videos, and Ronnie Coleman was doing a lot of videos at the time, Kevin Levrone, Lee Priest. There were a lot of videos that were out there that were popular guys that were showcasing, okay, this is what I eat, and this is how I train, and this is my lifestyle. We showing off the cars, this and that, and I didn't have anything much back when I early started. I mean, as you saw in my progression of the videos, I attracted more and more, the finer things from bodybuilding. But I filmed that first video in Worcester, Massachusetts at the Gold's Gym, which is now Crunch on Millbrook Street. And I remember going in and I was training at 7 o'clock every morning. I mean, it's just crazy how my routines kind of shifted through all the videos. And, I was so disciplined, and that's really what gave me the edge, being who I was and being a newcomer and being so hungry. I remember waking up every day and I was so excited to go to the gym. And I can promise you guys, by the end of my career, I wasn't as excited to get up and train. I kind of lost some motivation because you transition, and it's really hard for a fan from the outside to understand like what kind of goes in, especially if you do contest after contest with the pressure, and then you're the champion, and then you lose the title, you come back and win it, and there's always the new guy that's up and coming, and you get kind of burnt out mentally, and I think that leads to more physical burnout too. And although today I still love to train, it was, for me, it was just like I loved training for those videos. And I look back and I think some of my greatest memories of filming these. And it's just funny now that these videos have transpired over to YouTube and through social media. And you'll see a lot of these motivational videos like Machiavelli Motivation, and they put clips of these videos together and they show and they put some music to it. And it really creates a huge aura of what we did and what the mindset, and that made me super popular. So I want to thank everyone out there that continues to put out those videos that have me featured with the right kind of music and build up for it, and show like really, like, you look at the icons and you look at the guys that you admire for what the hard work and the dedication, and I say it all the time, I never thought about the money. I went to the gym because I loved to train and I wanted to be the best bodybuilder in the world. And I really didn't have any vision past that at that point. Soon to realize later in life there were much more vision that I had than being just a successful bodybuilder on the stage. It was taking it off the stages and now promoting. And I get to speak at this show tonight and talk about what it's like to carry a legacy now and have others look at your career as a model career and really give value that way, instead of just a guy that gets on stage and beats other bodybuilders to win all the accolades you see, trophies behind me. But a lot of great memories, man. I wish I could really let you guys inside my head to understand what that move was like for me and how scared I was, to leave my family. And I was contracted by Joe Weider at the time, and he really convinced me to move to California so he could utilize me more for the magazines. But I was scared, it was a culture shock to me, like to go from, renting an apartment for $500 a month, I think it was maybe $400 at the time, to paying $1,400 at Elise Apartments in Aliso Viejo, and thinking, wow, am I going to be able to pay my bills? Yeah, buying all new furniture, and then, of course, Kerry settling in, getting a nursing job there. But I remember the first few days we spent in California, I remember waking up and saying, I can't believe we're in California. Like, I would smile on the way to the gym for the first time in many, many years, because you guys don't understand, like, Massachusetts, like, I love my roots, but the weather just didn't fit what I had envisioned for my lifestyle. And I was so envious of people like Troy Zucolato and Dennis Newman and Sean Ray, who were guys that are featured in the California Sun, Gary Stridham, all these guys were outside Gold's Venice taking pictures of their cars, and, they're going to the gym in these nice, in tank tops and this and that. We couldn't do that in Massachusetts. The weather was restrictive. And, the magazines, there was no one speaking to us. There was no social media. So the magazines influenced us in a certain different aspect of what you see now on social media. Like, you could only go so deep into people's lives, so you didn't see like the bad side. You only saw the good side, right? Which social media still kind of displays a little bit, but you can kind of read through people and kind of like, it's constant. It's not always the same thing. It was like when you got to get in someone's life, it was limited, so you were eager to see more. Sometimes when you see people over and over on social, you're like, okay, I know the guy's routine, I know what he does, or he or she does. It doesn't get as exciting. So when you're limited and you're getting a magazine every month and you're like sitting at the edge of your bed like, I can't wait for the magazine to show up today. That's how it was for me. Like when my subscription showed up in time, when I could afford a $5 a month, subscription to a magazine, man, I was so excited to get that book, you know, and I would read it like every single page, and every single page had information, not like today's magazines that just like 16 pages of ads and then one informational page and then 16 pages of ads. Like it was like so much, like even the gossip section, like Muscle Mag used to have this Steve Neese column, and you know, I try to tell Dave, who shoots at Gold Venice, I said, you know, you're the modern day like Steve Neese of like gathering information, the new people that come to town and featuring, you know, this is the new up and coming. But I remember every month, and I remember thinking, man, if I could ever be featured in there, and I end up being like the feature in there of the new guy coming to Venice. And I remember he caught me on my last day when I was there, and I was so excited for my friends to be able to see that in the magazine back home. But you saw a lot of the new faces come in. I remember seeing Craig Titus come on the scene and them talking about him, and you know, Dennis Newman, and you know, you already knew about the top guys, but all the new faces that came up, it was just so exciting for me. And like it was a different time, and that's why, like I say, F social media, because it's lost the lackluster excitement that we used to get, because we were just eager to learn. And you know, now there's just way too much information that your head spins. But like bringing back, you know, those memories of making these videos and why I did it, to really let people in. And that's really what built my fan base. Be honest with you guys. It was putting out content. Content is king. And that's why we continue to do the YouTube videos, and I encourage people to come on the channel, even if they're afraid to talk. And you know, it's the little things you remember. I mean, this is going to be the headband video. That's good. That's what the title is going to be, because people know from the remakes of all those videos, and you know, especially the cut above, which is the first one, they're going to remember, oh yeah, Jay walking around with that white, and that was just a piece of shit towel. I ripped a piece off. The towel was about this long. I ripped a piece off of it, and I tied it on my head, because I used to sweat really bad when I trained, and I was wearing a heavy sweatshirt at the time. It was Max Muscle, and then they ended up sponsoring me. But at the time, like, Max Muscle was the clothing to wear. Just like Atomic shoes back then. I remember having my first pair of Atomics when I was 18, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm officially a bodybuilder. It's crazy now to have, you know, a partnership with Atomics now, and kind of be like the voice of the whole weightlifting shoe. I was wearing that shit back when I was 18 years old, and I was so excited when I got my first pair. I took a hand-me-down pair, believe it or not, just to be able to say I'm officially a bodybuilder. And you know, I wore those in the video. I wore the high boots in the video. You'll see. Go look at some of the clips. Search a cut above Jay Cutler on YouTube if you guys haven't been familiar with it, and see, I was wearing the Atomics back then. I was wearing the blue cutoff shorts, you know, and I was posing, and I was just crazy for 25 years old. And you know, that's when I look back and I say, man, I was impressive at that. Like, I didn't realize it then, but now looking at today's society and people raving about some of these 25-year-olds on the scene, I look back and I'm like, man, look at me at 25. I was pretty damn good. I was a good bodybuilder. But you know, that's kind of like a little insight. I just wanted to, you know, I was in the mood to talk about it tonight, and I think I'll touch a little bit on all these videos, and you guys can kind of research a little bit, and I think it will give you guys a different insight. They're free on YouTube. I mean, I still sell them on my website, but all these videos, cut above Jay Cutler DVD, search it. You guys will see it. Take a look at it, watch it, and see what really. That's where it all started for me. Back in Worcester, Massachusetts in 1999, and finishing in 2000. So, till the next time, guys, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed now. Please make sure you comment below if you remember those times. If you guys are some of the viewers back then, or if you guys have purchased that DVD or even watched it free on YouTube, make sure you let me know. And once again, I appreciate you guys following along and supporting me and the channel. And always dream big. That's the most important thing.